we have a solution. The Wine No Wine Show, where you can be friended and offended all in the same hour, where we gather people from all different walks of life and perspectives, and we talk about everything that everyone has told you not to. Religion, politics, and everything under the sun. Nothing is off limits, and we do it all over a glass of wine. So grab a glass and join us as we save America, one civil conversation at a time.
3, 2, 1, action!
Yo, what's up, social media? Welcome to the Wine No Wine Show, the only show where you can be friended and offended all in the same darn hour. How you like that? That's good? Yeah,
That worked. Bad.
Yeah.
Fine with me.
I'm working on my voice. And
You need to
inflection.
lower it a couple octaves
Yes.
to say where you can be offended
Yes.
at the same time.
Make them all go to sleep all at the same time. So,
Like
you
put on
know,
your coat
America, we have a problem. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I lovingly refer to this as the zero to Nazi effect. This isn't any given social media conversation where there's a disagreement. It's the length of time it takes to go from zero to you're a Nazi. I will now punch you in the face and go outside and set fire to your car. That's just how we disagree in America. I want to sell like a Wine No Wine Show disagreement kit. It's just a lighter and lighter fluid. I just disagree with you. I just disagree with you, sir. So
There goes your
the
car.
instructions say I have to go outside and set your car on fire. Do you have a dog? Optional kick dog. So that's just an option.
Borrow the leg.
Well, today we have a fun subject. We are talking about athletes and their pay. Is their pay exorbitant? Is it a little too much? Or is it just what it should be? Is it fair? Is it market driven? What's your answer? What's your thoughts? Chime in. Let us know what your opinion on this subject is. And when we get to the halfway point in the show, our production crew is going to pick out their favorite comments and throw them up on the screen, and we're going to debate what y'all have to say. So you are just as much a part of the show as our guests are. Today on the show, we are drinking, and it should be up on the screen now, a Spanish Sauvignon Blanc. It's Viña Vandalos. Yes, Vandalos. There we go. Just lost Spain. They're gone. Sorry, Spain. If that wasn't bad enough, it's going to get worse. It is a Vino de la Tierra de Castilla. It's not too bad.
De Castilla, that is correct. Not
All
too
right.
bad.
It's not too bad. All right. We actually have people that watch in Spain. I have somebody that tunes in on a regular basis. Yeah, Sarah.
Welcome.
Sarah watches the show
Did they
on
lose
a
the
regular
World Cup?
basis. You're asking the wrong person on that
Well,
one.
ask Facebook that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
Spain,
Spain still in the
Spain's
World
out of
Cup?
the World Cup.
They're
They're
out.
Spain's out. All right.
Spain's
Sorry, Spain. So
Well, we're celebrating you tonight.
yes, there we go. That's right. So this wine is from the center of Spain, Castilla. It's the very center of Spain and Spanish culture. And I'll just kind of jump to the quick description here. It's a pleasing pale straw in the glass with deliciously distinct fresh green herb notes and hints of tarragon, layered with other crushed herbs. The citrus flavors march forward on the palate, backed by zesty, crispy acidity and clean, lingering finish. This show would not be the same without the visual cues.
Right.
Marching.
Marching line.
What's that game? Charades?
Yeah, charades, yeah. Woo!
Are you yelling at me?
So we're gonna enjoy some Spanish Sauvignon Blanc, and we're gonna kill this bottle pretty quick. And we're gonna rate it at the end of the show. And we always have our ratings up on Instagram, so be sure to follow the Wine No Wine Show over on Instagram, where we get the wine ratings up, and that'll be up tomorrow sometime, usually. And at this point,
Mañana.
yes,
In the flavor of Spain.
in the
Yes.
flavor,
Yeah.
in the flavor of Spain, in the flavor and favor of Spain.
Right, there you go.
So, I'm going to jump to our guests now, let them introduce themselves and give their shameless plugs for whatever they'd like. Steve, I'll turn it over to our veteran grapehead on the show.
Oh my God, you started with me? Oh man, I thought I rated the last person. All right, okay, fine. Yes,
Sounds
my
good.
name is Steve Williams, and I've been on the show for quite some time, probably since its inception, I believe, right?
Yep. You were on the first show.
Yeah, it was first show and many shows after that. So I took a hiatus for a couple of months, and now I'm back for today's wonderful program. And
I don't know whose
look forward to
hiatus you
this-
took, but return it. We're not.
Well, it was
we
basically
don't support
yeah.
thievery on this show, or even borrowing it extended.
I just I could make telephone calls out from my jail cell, so yeah, I'm good.
That was you
Anyway.
calling me, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, collect call from.
Dang, yeah, every time. I was like, come on, stop it.
I had to call somebody. Anyway, looking forward to get back in the saddle. We got new folks here that are ready to debate the issue of the day, and I'll toss it off to Molly.
I'm Molly Ladner, real estate investor. That's about it. I don't have a shameless plug. I'm not good at,
Molly,
I'm not good at
please
branding myself.
shorten this up.
Yeah, could you make it a little shorter next time?
Yeah.
They had an agreement.
Oh, but I did start a new T-shirt business. It's Fly Robin Apparel. Follow me on
Fly
Instagram.
Robin Apparel.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I did it for my friend.
Very cool. All right.
It was awesome.
Birds on the shirt.
No.
No.
I'm Chris
No,
Kelso,
it's just a
Fairway Mortgage. We do loans all over the state, all over the city, all over the country. Third largest lender in the United States. And today, actually, is Friday. So, what we do is we wear red on Friday. It's remember everybody deployed. Very important to know,
I
by
got
the way.
red. I got red.
Yeah, you got red.
I got
Also,
red.
you got the American flag right there.
Yeah.
So.
Right on. I didn't know that was a
we're-
thing.
Yes, so we remember everybody deployed on Friday. Thank you very much, everybody who's out there, all of our vets who have supported this country, and all the active military right now who are actually allowing us to do this show.
Right
in
on.
the comfort of this
Thank
this
you.
great location. So we
Cheers.
appreciate that. Chris Kelso.
Awesome. I'm Adam Metzler. I'm also in real estate investor, and also own a fence company. I've known that joker for quite some time now, and finally got on the show, freed up from some of my busy schedule to make my appearance. So I'm looking forward to it, and let the party begin.
You actually admit that you know him.
I did.
I know.
I had no idea.
That was risky.
Yeah, threw that one out there.
There goes all your business.
I saw him sitting there
I
on
gotta
the
go
side
get
of
it
the
back.
sidewalk. I felt really bad for him. So I'm like, what do you do, man? You do a TV show?
I'm a
Okay, fine.
vet.
I'll go
Send
do
the
it.
houses to me.
Yeah, right.
You.
I'm just gonna enjoy this glass of wine.
I'm gonna test it out with you, by the way.
All right,
Yes.
cheers.
Cheers to a good show.
Cheers. Cheers.
Clinkable moment.
Drinkable.
There it is.
Oh!
Oh!
Yeah.
Had to get that last one in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no telling what happens there.
I didn't
Wow,
do the
that-
sniff first. Is
wow.
that what you're supposed to do? The
Yeah,
sniff?
it's
Yeah,
good to
sniff
I think
and
so.
then
It's good to
Yeah,
smell
well,
it.
yeah.
The whole,
It does have
make
a,
it-
The thing
it's
is,
got a
you
nice
swim it.
fruity smell to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You just
I gotta get used to this.
swirl it to break and oxygenate the
Right.
beverage and
Yes.
let it sit
Also,
there and
that's
stick
the
your
little,
nose in
the
it.
little bobble thing I have at home that
Yeah.
just does it for me.
And then the
The
smell, the
Yeah.
smell sets
It's
up
an
the taste.
aerator.
Aerator.
Aerator. That's what it's
Yeah.
called.
Yep.
Got it.
So.
Yep. I'd
I couldn't bring my immersion blender, so
car.
you know.
Right in it. Well, now they
Because
got
it just
bottles.
wasn't coming in the side of the tube for me to drink it that much.
All right. So today's topic, before the police show up. Yeah.
Oh, there he is already.
Yeah.
We got
Today's topic: the pay of our professional athletes. Too much? Is it exorbitant? It's off the charts, or is it just right? What it should be? Let the market figure it out. What's y'all's thoughts? Give me your bullet point. Go around the room here, Steve. What is your take?
Okay, well, I'm a firm believer in free market, and the market is or the premise of the whole deal is entertainment value. I think it has deviated from entertainment into more of a business, and these players need this kind of salary. Most of them need this kind of salary. The performers need the money to pay out of pocket for rehab during the off seasons. They spend just exorbitant amounts of money to get their bodies back into shape for a full season of play. And so I really think that the salaries are justified. Plus the length of their careers in a specific position is shortened. I think running backs are the ones that are the most. They have the most attrition. They're good for 5-6 years, and then it's bye to nothing. and they need the money because once they're out of football, they either go into broadcasting or buy a car dealership, and I don't know, that's where they usually go.
Yeah.
So I think it's justified.
Yeah, especially in Pasadena. Don't have enough.
So I think the salary is justified. Some of them need a spanking every now and then, but who knows?
Let's leave their personal lives out of this.
Who knows? They might like spanking.
Some of them do.
Speaking of spanking, Molly.
Uh-oh.
I don't think that
I'm sorry.
I don't think that their salaries are excessive. I think that risk versus reward, they don't have a lot of time in their careers just because the risk is so much greater for them getting injured, wearing out their joints, bodies, all of that. Then the cost to be an athlete, you have to, like he was saying, rehab and all of that stuff. So I don't think it's excessive.
All right, we have these no's on this side of the room. How will this side turn out, Mr. Kelso?
I think they're excessive. I agree. The market determines ultimately what we talk about. But I will tell you this. I have worked for 30 years of my life right now, right? I have a relatively short lifespan if you think about it, right? I have to work every day. I got to work my ass off every day to make money, okay? And the one thing I just say is that the salaries that these players are getting paid nowadays, and I'm a big sports fan, and we'll get into some other things later on, but I'm a big sports fan. But I just think that the amount of money that we are paying some of these athletes and the way they act in public and the type of individuals they end up influencing in our society, we are paying them too much for things that they do not want to do. They are definitely not individuals that I'm going to put forward to be a role model for my children. What happens afterwards, what happens a lot of times on the field nowadays, what happens on the basketball court, what happens on the soccer field, World Cup soccer, for example, the flopping that's going on. It's just an excessive amount at this point. But again, the market bears it, so it's one of those. My personal opinion, yeah, it's catch-22, right?
Yeah.
So the world, the Spock.
Spocker
is
a new sport. Yeah.
I promise.
Cheers!
I promise I haven't had that much to drink.
Here's a Spocker.
Literally my first class.
To the Spockers.
More spocking.
Write that term
So the
down.
soccer players,
Yes.
there's flopping going on with the soccer players. I didn't even know they were playing poker now.
Yeah, exactly. Can you believe it? Yeah, they flop and then they turn, then they go to the river.
Wow.
Yes. So no, it's an excessive amount nowadays. If you look at if you look at these
Really
contracts that we're getting, you get some of these contracts that are getting nowadays, guaranteed contracts for players out there. Again, the market pays it, and it is what it is. But I disagree with the salaries, especially with other things we have. Look at our nurses. Look at our teachers, our educational system. Look at where money should be going into right now to be able to continue to create an even better society, a more educated society. So, a lot of things like that. I'll let you do your side, whichever side you're on, but it's a personal opinion.
Yeah, no, I think they're inflated quite a bit. I am totally with their short-term longevity in regards to a profession, and they've got to put a lot of abuse on the body, but I think especially when you see the acting up of the different behaviors, a lot of domestic abuse, things of those natures. I think when you give a 22-year-old that kind of money just straight into their pocket, they don't go into any sort of training, financial advice, marital advice, stuff like that, and I think that creates a lot of issues. Now, granted, do they earn that money? Does the market provide for them to make that money? That's the free market side of it. Absolutely. If someone's going to pay me, $600,000 for a house that I'm selling for $300,000, well, obviously I'm going to take it, as long as I can. But at the same time, I think there's got to be some sort of balance with what kind of role model you're portraying to the kids and the communities and things of that nature. I don't know how you do that, but I do say they're inflated. I think they've just gone way too high. Teams can buy championships almost, or at least they can try it. Yankees, Astros, woo! So that's my 2 cents on it.
I'd like to take this time to remind our guests that we are a national show.
So wait a minute. Are you still?
I'm kidding. I don't care.
So wait a second. Is a technical term?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. All right, good.
That's a technical
That's the
term.
new
Just wanna
technical
make
term.
sure.
If you didn't know, was invented. It's just-
I didn't know.
right now.
Yeah.
The wine, no wine show.
My wife would argue about the.
While I have friends in New York that I love, I support the sentiments of our guests on the regards to the baseball teams mentioned. So,
Astros. Sorry.
And he's disclaiming
hey,
us.
it was a great series, by
Yeah,
the
it's
way. That was,
tremendous series. Probably one of the
amazing.
best
Phenomenal.
ever.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was amazing. That was
Absolutely.
a great
Yeah.
battle.
Well, and actually, speaking of which, so you're talking about players getting paid and what they're getting paid. Look at what the Astros did through a farm system organization and through training them and leading them up the right way. None of those guys made those big salaries, and they all had great attitudes. You start seeing these guys and even ladies get big salaries, and then all of a sudden their head gets big, and they start going out and doing lavish things, which is fine as long as you're setting some sort of right example, because there are a lot of eyes on them. And we talked about it earlier. Look at the president. Look at our military. Look at these other professions that don't. Teachers. I mean, completely underrated. And granted, there's the entertainment side to it, but when you point the question, are they excessive? Are they overpaid?
So let me ask you guys, and I'll ask this question, kind of stir the pot, and I'll give it back to you guys to dwell on this. For both of you guys, there was a kind of an angle or mention. One of your points of dissent on their high pay was the role model aspect and their behavior outside of the game itself. Do you feel like there should be some requirement? I mean, is there think of any other industry is there any other industry, I mean, like in the mortgage industry, do they expect you guys to have a, certain character outside of the deal? And that's maybe a bad example because you have a financial kind of a relationship. So
And no public eye, really.
Right. But, I mean, like just average, job, the guy
Our
managing
our
Pizza
military
Hut.
is held to
I
a
look at it
standard.
this way. Look at recently. You see this in the news all the time, right? You see an individual, he has an affair with the secretary, he's being let go. You see, these are executives or major corporations out there, right? You see things are going on. Hey, by the way, I put something wrong on my resume, which wasn't completely accurate. You're fired as a coach immediately, right? You're seeing all these type of things in corporate America, okay? And what we're training everybody is, hey, stand up, be a stand-up individual, be a person of integrity and of ethics. Stand up for that. And the problem that I see is that you have a lot of and there's a lot of good athletes out there, by the way, and there's a lot of good people. So I don't want to also generalize that they're all bad and they're all horrendous and they're all doing bad things, because that's not the case. I mean, J.J. Watt is probably
Doing
one of the
great things.
greatest individuals. Okay. Yeah. But the difference on somebody like J.J. Watt and what he makes, $100 million contract that he signed a couple of years ago, is look what he puts back into society. Right. Look what he does as a role model. Look what he does, when Hurricane Harvey came along. Look what he does exactly Santa Fe. Look what he does to put, unfortunately, his money where his mouth is, right? He is a highly compensated individual who's very good at what he does, but also gives back in a way that no other person that we've seen in a long time does.
Right.
And on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have individuals that are, that are sitting out there and doing the absolute deplorable things and getting involved in domestic abuses and shooting other people and and there's just a lot of horrendous action items that go on, and yet they come in front of everybody and they say it wasn't me, or I had nothing to do with that, or it is what it is. And it's yes, there is a role model aspect to it. I'm expected in my job to perform my function in a certain way every day, right? I am a highly compensated individual who has to perform my function the same way every day, has to be professional, has to be ethical, has to be moral, and I don't get paid anywhere near the level on which some of these professional athletes do. So I would say is, you talk about that, and yes, that role model aspect, many years ago, and this has always made me really mad. I think many years ago, a basketball player, it was like Charles Barkley or something like that, said, I get paid a lot of money, and I know you guys want me to be a role model, but I don't get paid to be a role model. And I think from that moment on, one of the things that's happened is a lot of these athletes don't feel they have to be a role model. They don't see, and the problem is you have a lot of kids that look up to these guys all the time.
Yeah.
Right? My son looks up to the baseball players and the football players and the basketball players.
Emulating what they do.
And they emulate, they buy their products that they sell. They buy their shoes, they buy their shirts, they buy their jerseys, right?
Yeah.
But isn't that your responsibility as a parent to allow him to be in front of that? If you don't agree, then don't let your kid watch it.
Man, very good point. And I find myself as a parent always conflicted about that, because you're right. On the one side, you want to give them everything. And on the other side, it's sit there and you say, what do you want to limit them to, right? What do you want to take away, or what do you want to, try to limit them from seeing that? And when something does go wrong, they're the first ones to come and say, hey, I read this, or my friend told me this about X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
And then you have to have those conversations. So, and that's a whole different conversation about the raising of families in America and everywhere nowadays, right? But I do agree. I've got as much as responsibility as to letting him see that as what he as anybody else out there. So I
He could
thoroughly
have
agree.
children. He could have children, and he's representing whatever he feels like representing on his platform. So you
Yeah.
represent what you want on your platform.
The difference is, though, they have a platform which is an influential platform. It's a powerful, influential platform, right? We're on this
That
show
they've worked
today,
for.
right? And we're gonna get probably a lot of comments and a lot of we're on a platform as well, right?
right.
But these individuals are in front of millions of people, right? They have paparazzi around them all the time. Okay, they have they're reported on in the newspapers and in CNN and ESPN and Fox 1 and all that kind of stuff. So the problem is the influence that they have in proportion to what they should be doing is immensely greater. If I had that same ability to promote myself and to be, trust me, I'd be the JJ Watt, of
Mortgages.
yeah, of the mortgages. and to be honest with you, I try to be. I mean, good guy, works his ass off. But that's one of the issues I just do have, independent of, and I'm going to say a subject matter here that everyone, independent of the flag debacle and standing up for the flag, that isn't a good example. Look at what that did. Look at the influencing factor they had because of the platform of what took place on that, right? And you can't take that away. That's just the reality of what it is, right? The reality is they have a platform that we would wish to have.
Well, who do you think that affected, Chris?
Yeah.
The people that look to professional sports as an entertainment value to them, in my opinion, it really offended. I mean, everybody stands up for veterans and our armed services who are deployed these days, and that's always a wonderful thing. It's very much appreciated, personally, and I think that people that actually get out and perform in front of audiences, that's almost a gimme. Their exposure is a gimme. It's a part of their I wouldn't say that they have appearance clauses in their contracts. I think they do, but it's more like we always hear about the collective bargaining that they talk about for the teams, and all that collective bargaining is a benchmark of league to player agreements, and whatever individual contractual stuff they do is between the player and the actual owner of the team. Okay, so if for some reason some issue comes up with a player like Mr. What's his name, Kaepernick, who doesn't play anymore, he made a statement, and I tell you what, the guy was already on his way out of the league because he sucked as a player. He sucked on his way going out. So as far as I was concerned, good riddance.
The comments are flying now.
Because he was not showing, in my opinion, respect for an imperfect country.
Right.
We're not a perfect country.
Right.
We have
I'd
nowhere
say
near
that.
been perfect. So
But
if
one
you
of the
take the
reasons why
imperfect,
we're a perfect country is because we have the freedom of speech, and we also have the ability to allow people to express themselves.
Correct.
So if that was his way of expressing himself, then we should acknowledge it, period, and that should be the end of the conversation. But everyone gets offended. I know. There goes the comments. But I'm just saying is that's what soldiers go over to Afghanistan and Iraq to fight for, is for the ability for somebody to have a difference in opinion in America. And whether you agree with it or not, that's what he was trying to do, whether it was blown out of proportion. Well, it was blown out of proportion, but ultimately that was, I think, his objective.
I just want to real quick chime in. We can go down any rabbit hole we want. Let's no, it's okay. It's okay. All I was going to say with this particular rabbit hole was let's try to keep it in the context of pay,
salary,
right, and whether it's too much or too little. So.
Well,
this is
the
still in there. Role model is part of it. Part of what they're saying, what they both expressed was that they're getting paid so much and failing at a role model position And that's part of the reason why they feel like their pay isn't.
Well, there are a lot of factors
valued.
that play into how much we are entertained. If they do something that offends us, like they're in an elevator and they sock the crap out of their wife, knock her out, that's going to be a negative on that player and on that team.
Organization.
And then it trickles over into the league because
Yeah.
everybody's attention is drawn to that particular issue. Now, you talked about J.J. Watt being an outstanding
Stand-up.
individual. Nobody can throw rocks at that. If somebody did, they'd just be shooting themselves in the foot.
Absolutely.
But who started all of this community organizing and or involvement? A guy named Walter Payton.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
named the award
Yep, the
after
Payton
him.
Award.
So
Payton Award.
if you go back and I know this is going to be Googled right now, look at some of the accomplishments and things that Walter Payton was involved in,
Absolutely.
which earned him the right to be forever embodied in a statue and an award that's given out every year to the player that exemplifies the things that he stood for, maybe even does things better. I think JJ eclipses Walter Payton in accomplishments just simply from monetary and community involvement. JJ Watt is not always involved in the Houston area. He goes out and does things all
Everywhere.
across the country. So, and there are a lot of other players that you'll never even hear about sometimes.
So let me
Yeah.
ask
Do
you,
that.
y'all have all chimed in about this role model thing. Is there any of you guys that hold a position or even on the fence, I guess, because you're the only one that hadn't chimed in on this yet, to say that the Charles Barkley comment, like, and if it was Charles Barkley, I don't know who it was.
Yeah, I
No,
agree.
I said
Right.
that it was. I said
But
that if you're going to use it as a role model thing, I think it's a parent's responsibility.
Well, wait.
to
Let me
take care
finish
of-
the question. To say that is the role model, is being a role model part of the job? Is it part of the resume? They come up playing through high school, through college, to professional. Most of them, right? And at any point in there, is there on the checklist he's also a good, he does the 40 in 4.5 seconds, but he's also volunteering during the summer with the kids. So we're going to go ahead and hire that
Play
guy
60
instead of the guy that runs it in 4.3. Right? Is that anywhere in the job resume at any point where we can legitimately expect? Just because, I want to be a little bit challenging here in what I'm
Right.
saying, right?
Right.
I see a lot in America where people hate on somebody. Trump's a perfect example, right? Because of his wealth.
Speaking of
Right.
rabbit holes,
Right? I'm just saying that's
Run.
but it's come up more because
No, that's right. You're
it's-
right.
it's-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's come up more because of
Good
the recent, because he's president and he's a
Yeah.
billionaire. And I hear people talk just in essence,
You're right.
even when
No, it's
it
true.
comes to taxes, like the rich to pay their fair share.
Yeah.
Okay, well they're paying 90% of all the taxes in America.
And creating jobs. and
I'm
all
like,
the rest of the people.
at what
Yeah.
point is it no longer fair? I mean, if
Right.
they're
Right.
paying 90%, do you want them to pay 95% of the taxes?
Right.
Is it fair then? So I'm like, I see people hating on people just because they're wealthy.
Right.
So are we putting a standard on them as a job requirement and saying you guys should also be stand-up citizens? The epitome of a good American
They're
citizen.
trying to put
you're
trying to put
or-
butts in seats, and that's
Yeah.
where this whole thing gets kind of muddy, is because owners want butts in seats, which pay for tickets, which pays for sales, which pays for their employment, which pays for buying
Salaries.
features and salaries and stuff like that, right? And so what you're seeing with the whole, let's stay on the topic of pay, but with the flag thing is what happened when you're paying somebody an exorbitant amount of money. They get their head big. They don't realize that they're actually working for an organization that allows them to make that kind of money, and then they go and put a personal opinion out on a public stage that affects the bottom line of that business. That's why the whole thing switched, is they're losing their tail on money.
It goes
Money
back
was
to the
fleeting
whole
away.
Parent responsibility.
It is a parent's responsibility.
That's the
However,
organization's
Don't
responsibility.
talk over
it
each
is,
other.
yeah, it is the organization's responsibility, and that's what they're doing. They're telling them that, hey, if you want to be on this team, Dallas Cowboys, you're going to stand, because I don't want people not tuning in to my team and losing money for me, which I'm paying you. So take your public opinion.
And Molly was
Offline,
chiming in,
yeah.
so I want to make sure she
Yeah,
had the
there's,
opportunity.
there's
to respond.
nothing wrong with that, though.
Yeah.
But that's the organization, that's the parent's responsibility. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is yours. Their
But the
responsibility is theirs.
consequences is that of
you
that
don't
players.
have to watch the NFL. You could go watch college.
And they chose
right.
not to, too.
There was a lot of people that made that decision. But what we failed to see or probably notice for the most part was that there was a real fragmented response from the players, from the owners, from the league itself to address what Colin Kaepernick started and got other players to chime in, all because of some, in my opinion, an overhyped social justice BS stance. You want to come after me about my position, that's fine. But I think it was absolute BS. I think it was overhyped. I think this whole idea was absolute trash, and it destroyed the league last year. It destroyed their ability to do what they were designed to do, which was entertain, because half the audience went off and never watched it.
Yeah.
So, I didn't watch it.
So tie that back to pay.
Well, if they didn't get paid that much money, would they be doing it?
No.
See, and that's where I'm talking about inflation.
So just to be clear, right? Because your position was the high pay is worth it, right?
Yes.
So, but to answer to his question, if they weren't paid as much, it was lower pay, would they have the same inclination, or would they be acting the same
think
way?
there would be a real change in work ethic. I think the teams would take over an awful lot of the off-season care for their players like they used to do back in the 50s and 60s when football, the professional football leagues were developing, players were developing, and we all have these historical references and based upon statistics, and there's a genuine interest in the league and performance, and we like to watch teams. I love great competition. I love to see my teams that I personally like win, but dadgummit, they're going to lose. They're going to have problems. They're going to have seasons which absolutely stink. But that doesn't affect the way that I watch them. I'll watch them just to see how bad they can really do. But I care about what they do, what they stand for. And if they entertain me, even when they are losing, I'm fine with it.
So you're a Lions fan then?
Well, yeah.
Sorry,
No, I got a friend that I serve with. He's a Lions fan. Good night.
Michigan's down.
Well, I blow stinkers.
First we
to him
lost
like he was-
Spain.
Wow.
Hi,
I forgot about
Michigan. And New York. They're gone. Michigan, you're out of there.
Miami.
Well, let's not go.
Houston
Speaking
right
of pay,
now.
let's not talk about LeBron then, because Cleveland, LA, whoa.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how the NBA is to a couple teams, the Lakers and Golden State, have really sucked in a lot of veterans. They really want to create a dynasty for next year because they're so scared of Houston.
Yeah,
because of how close
that's an interesting
they
concept.
were.
Yes.
So they're going to position themselves to make sure that they take care of the teams that are a threat to their
LeBron
winning.
could make it to the finals with
Anybody.
He could roll up.
Yeah.
He could roll up in here. Hey guys, I was doing the show. Y'all are on the team.
Yeah,
let's go.
Let's go start.
Right?
Yeah.
So we all
that
kind of
because-
laugh
is that
about
because
It's
of
like
his
Brady.
pay?
He's
It's
like
like that
Because of
movie
his
though,
followers.
pass it to Italians, pass it to LeBron, he'll shoot it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But you know, to answer back, I want to go back to Molly, the relation of pay and being a role model, and my parenting, I guess. You know, the one, and I take full responsibility of how I raise my children, and I think everybody needs to take full responsibility of how they raise their children. But I also
no
think,
responsibility for my children.
and Joe takes none, by the way. So yes,
I don't know what
I think
she's
they're
doing.
running around out
I don't know
there.
what she's doing right now behind the production screen over there.
But with that being said, is that you also have to.
You're doing great. The mom says you're doing good.
So you're doing awesome. But on the role model side of things, and as a parent, I'll tell you this: you want to be able to raise a well-rounded child, and part of that raising a well-rounded child is to let them understand both sides of the equation.
I don't let my children overeat.
You don't let them overeat.
No.
Yeah. No.
I don't want them too round.
Yeah. Exactly.
Too well-rounded.
But hang on. There's a recent trend that I've
Where's
noticed
the
about
tomatoes?
parenting.
Yes.
I'm not a parent. I've never had children. But the thing is that I have noticed that there's a recent trend that says parents will do anything they can to keep their children from failing. I think that is an extreme mistake.
I agree with you.
They
absolutely.
need
I agree.
to
They
learn
need
to
to
fail
get
so
dirty.
that they can succeed
Yeah.
later on.
The whole concept
And
of
hard
everyone's a
I'm not
winner.
that parent.
Hard work,
My
yeah.
kids will fail, but I feel every day.
So you're not one of those helicopter moms?
I am not. I let them fall down and they pick themselves up.
There you
because
go.
You have to let them fall
You
down.
have nothing
It's
to worry
tough,
about.
Yeah.
No,
All right,
I
we'll
don't.
be
I have
fine.
really great
Yep.
kids.
We've got some comments, and I'm going to hop to those here in a second. We got to take a commercial break for one of our sponsors of the show, and we have mad love for our sponsors. Phil and Derek's downtown in Midtown. Phil and Derek's Jazz Bar. If you haven't been there, that place is awesome.
Ballet.
Nice.
No, it's in Midtown. I don't know a landmark to tell you other than that, but it's in Midtown. Really cool place. They got live jazz music 7 days a week. And
Really?
yeah,
Feel like grooving.
yep, really
It's
good
Friday.
stuff.
7 days, not 4,
And-
not 3.
John Cruz is the owner of that place.
Oh, hey!
There you go.
Yep.
Okay.
So they've been with a sponsor with us now for months, and love that place.
Yeah.
Nicole Thalji, as we need more realtors on the show. Nicole Thalji with the EXP Realty, she's a sponsor of the show, and she's tossing the idea around of becoming a wine sponsor because they have like a huge wine collection, and so she might be providing some wine for the show. So I'm hopeful.
Plug.
Yes,
Please
and,
do.
More wine.
Yes, and CC's
Good
Pizza.
Valley.
We want to give a shout out to those guys. Mad love for all the pizza that they give us. We have the Body Mechanics up in Longview, Texas, a massage therapy place. They're phenomenal. So we got some great sponsors, but I have no idea who's going to roll on the sponsor roll today.
You called it.
Phil and Derek's? Okay, Phil and Derek's is running. Which, by the way, we shot the commercial for him, and by we, I mean Alex, who's behind the scene. But I did the voiceover.
Hey.
And it was so good, they used it when they were featured on Deborah Duncan here in Houston.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
On the Today Show.
They used, yes, they used,
Congratulations.
they used our video.
So now you're famous? Are you
Yeah.
using your platform?
Well, you gonna get Deborah on the
How's
show.
the pay?
All right,
Yeah.
how's the
Yeah.
face?
She'll do the show.
So stick
is
around.
so much bigger than what she
Speaking
has.
of overpaid, Joe is way overpaid.
I mean, listen,
It's
they-
getting to his head.
The Deborah Duncan show's been calling. I didn't want to
Yes.
say that on the air, but
Oh.
we haven't taken their call. No, I'm just
It's a
kidding.
voicemail.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, we're
Please call.
gonna catch a message here from our sponsor Phil and Derek's. But when we come back, be sure you guys stick around because when we come back, the production team has picked out their favorite comments from the comment feed, and we're gonna let our guests chime in on your comments. So we'll be right back. Phil and Derek's Restaurant and Jazz Bar, located in the midst of bustling Midtown in Houston. You'll find a laid-back atmosphere and ambiance reminiscent of the comfort of your own living room, coupled with a flair of pizzazz and glitz from live New York-style cabaret entertainment 7 nights a week. Phil and Derek's is not only the ideal restaurant with a great, long-standing wine selection, but also with a full bar as well. Phil and Derek's stock and knowledge of wines from Napa Valley wines, French Bordeaux, Spanish and Argentinian wines, just to name a few, are the envy of wine connoisseurs far and wide. Phil and Derek's Sunday Brunch was voted Best Morning After Brunch for 3 consecutive years. Come indulge in the ample buffet of crepes, omelets, various salads, meats, complimentary mimosas, and much, much more. Enjoy delicious foods from the kitchen until midnight. We're equipped with large dining areas, ideal for every party need, whether business or pleasure. Come see and enjoy all that Phil and Derek's has to offer. And we're back. All right. Welcome back to the Wine No Wine Show. That was a message from our sponsor, Phil and Derek's, down in Midtown. Be sure to support those guys. Check them out. We are enjoying our Spanish Sauvignon Blanc today, and we already killed the bottle. We've already moved on to the red for 2 of our guys. We have white,
the
red,
red,
white,
blue
red,
show.
white. Isn't that? I mean, that's like so.
Hey, red
Now
so-
we need some blue.
coordinated.
Some
Yeah.
blue.
The
Yeah.
July special.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I messed it up. so-
Happy Independence Day.
Anyway, that's cool stuff going on here. Whatever.
America.
We have
America.
America.
We have more than
We
4
have-
stripes. So we go.
Yeah. So we have questions or comments from our audience today. Herman Harris, ATO, Ado.
Otto.
Herman Otto, yeah. I'm not sure, Herman. I apologize. So you're Herman. Herman asks for Chris and Adam. Herman said, Chris and Adam, although I agree being a role model is important, why are y'all associating salary to a standard of leadership? What are your thoughts on this?
You know,
That's a good point.
I'm going to say I understand where you're coming from, but you know, in corporate America, which we all buy from. Leadership is associated with salary and everything that they do.
Absolutely.
We expect good corporate governance. We expect good corporate leadership, and companies that perform the best get paid more. Right? I mean, you look at all the most successful individuals in any major company out there, and their salary is consonant with their leadership and what the performance of the company is and what they do. I don't think that's any difference when you're looking at an athlete. I think that and they get paid, by the way, a lot more,
a little bit
a
more.
lot more than some of these CEOs of these major corporations. So
But my question is, would
yeah.
you hold the janitor to the same standards you would the CEO of a company?
I
My
hold-
answer is yes.
Yes,
You should.
I hold everybody
Yeah,
accountable to the
that's
same
true.
standards
Yeah.
that we believe in. That is correct. And so, but if you're getting paid more,
You have more
you
responsibility.
have more responsibility,
Yeah, it's just
and
all
your
there is to it.
standard and your level
Yeah.
has to be higher.
Yeah.
I totally disagree with that. You ready for this?
All right.
Because salary,
Yes.
I think, does not have a thing to do with your leadership capability. You could
No,
be
it
making the
doesn't
league.
have-
Doesn't.
It doesn't.
You could-
It doesn't
we're not
have-
saying that.
No.
you could be
exactly.
making the league minimum
Mhm.
and still be one of the most outstanding role models, mentors,
Absolutely. That's why we're not
players,
associating.
But is it
someone
required?
who leads from behind.
But is it
Yeah.
required? But is it
It's
required?
not required. No. I
But
don't think
And we're not
it's
saying
all
that
about
it's
who you are,
directly-
your core beliefs.
Right.
You could be making $1.50 an hour.
Yep.
Anybody who's worked in
Yep.
in a job
Service industry.
making $1.50. Yeah, you looking for the tips. You're looking
Yeah.
to provide good, excellent customer service. This, that, and the other. Well, in
But
the
they're the
league,
character
you're
behaviors.
looking to do your job as a lineman or as a third
Quarterback.
string special teams
Anything.
receiver or whatever, and they're going to go out and play. Actually, they're going to play the hardest.
Right. Well, that's what
They're
we're
going to
kinda
perform
saying,
because
though, to
that's
some
the
extent.
only
Yeah,
time they
I
get
get
to prove their mettle on the field.
But
on
the other ones that
on
are
the
getting
clock.
paid too much, and that's what we're kind of getting at, is when you're getting
Yeah.
paid too much, the head's getting too big. You think you're invincible, so you can do and act however you want to when that's not the case.
You're not trying
Yes,
to work
we
your
have
way
seen
up
players
into
that
the high
make
salary.
the $154 million,
Yeah.
contracts
And
that
go
go
beat
out
their
there
wife.
and are just an immediate force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
So
But
it's
we've
okay to beat
also
the wife if
seen-
you're making $300,000 in the league?
No, it
No,
doesn't.
no.
So should,
Either
but
way.
should they change the regulations on people that are making a higher salary versus the lower?
It comes down to
ones,
visibility,
or-
though.
Right.
Because look at this.
The
So
lineman.
their platform.
Yeah, you're going to remember the number
100%.
one. You're going to remember who was drafted number one. You don't remember Mr. Irrelevant nowadays, right? And so, yes,
Unfortunately.
I mean, and
Until
guess
he's
what?
already
Number
free.
one gets paid
Yeah.
100,000 times more than number whatever 258 or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, your responsibility by getting more money, you're going to obviously, and I will tell you this, you're going to be in a more visible position. So
Absolutely.
you have to have a more heightened awareness of that leadership responsibility that you have.
Yeah.
That is required.
True.
Yeah.
But it all depends on how you do, how you actually perform in that role. If they take it on and they develop their little niche, what they feel comfortable with doing as far as that role model job, so to speak, they're going to take to it. They're not going to be the end to all means unless they just totally explode and go on. It's all personal preference. They're going to do what they're capable and comfortable of doing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but branding and image too, it goes into this. And when you look at the platforms that these professional organizations have, you're talking branding and image, branding and image, branding and image, branding and image. And you got a guy that's paid, $200 million for a 5-year contract, and he goes out there and does something that sets a bad branding or a bad image to the company that he's representing.
We've
Should
seen
you be-
sponsors yank their
Well,
their
exactly,
BS.
and-
Well, so whose
so therefore-
responsibility is that? Like Joe was saying, is it their responsibility to vet these players? Like even if he's running a 4.0 versus a 4.3.
Well, and that's where we
or
go back
whatever,
to
is
the
it-
putting
is
butts
it-
in
but then
seats. Money does talk. So you get to the free capital, the
free
capitalism,
market,
the free
where we go
market,
with this-
where we're going to
this
go to
next
next.
question.
Yeah, that's great. It puts butts in seats, but at the same time, I think when you talk about a country that's trying to set a moral standard that's a little bit better and get it better, maybe we should be looking at.
Production just said, no, you cannot read that comment before we're ready.
Joe's show. He's gonna read that.
We're taking
Not
off
you.
the screen.
Yeah.
Y'all
Thank
can
you.
no, not
You're
allowed.
gonna lead him into it.
You're taken away. You're in timeout now.
That was awesome.
That was good.
That was
Well,
awesome.
it's not a perfect situation.
It's not.
It's
Not.
something
No.
that has its pluses and minuses, and I
Right.
think the balance is, to be honest, I think the balance is a little bit still on the negative side, and it's a residual negative personification from last year with a major entertainment sports league having this problem with players going out there and making a social statement. I mean, that's just, to me, the whole thing was just ridiculous. I think that if they're on the clock, they're there to play football. They're not there to make
and the other side of it too, and we got to give it to the other side too, which is we're pushing. Like, if you go back to the Bonds and the McGuire and the Sosa era, the steroid era, you're pushing these pays to these guys to do these bad things so they can perform greater to get higher paychecks.
Yeah,
too.
well,
so you can forget the national anthem side of it and the domestic abuse side of it. You're talking about steroids and stuff like that, which is a drug abuse, which is another bad example because they're trying to earn more money and get a higher platform.
Well, like what Chris was saying about, the draft. You get the 1 through the top 10 of any draft. Those players, before they even leave the stage, have already gotten people lined up to go to their team owners and say, I'd like for this player to sponsor Reebok. We need an Under Armour an agreement with them. I mean, they're going to have these things lined up, and this is how much money I'm going to get extra on top of the salary.
That goes back to the responsibility of the business to say.
They're still going to make their salary from the team. It's all this extra stuff that I think is where the corruption begins. The substandard play. We've seen the players that make the bazillion bucks on the field to perform. They gas a pass or they do something stupid, and they hey, I'm still making money, I'm making money.
It is,
and so, but you see the other players that are making the league minimum. They're going out there busting their asses out there, and
Astros.
they don't make that kind of stuff. But that's changed now with the Astros. By the way, those players that we saw are making.
They're now going to get paid.
They got an exponential,
and now they have a greater responsibility. And so they've got a greater responsibility.
And we have seen them
because they're earning more money now.
We have seen them take on those roles.
Yes,
we've
in
seen
a good way.
Players do
so
good ways.
That's a good positive way.
So we've seen the good with that.
But the Astros are a good example.
Let's just be
that's
honest.
right. Well,
it's
yeah,
because
they're
from Texas.
Well, they are though. They've been acclaimed as a good natural upbringing team that isn't hotheads. Yeah. We had one minor episode in the World Series last year, but that was it.
But they're still out there having a ball playing
and they're having
this
fun.
year.
They're known as the fun team.
And that's what I say.
So we have to be careful. We're all talking at once, so we have to.
Okay, just let me talk then.
Everybody can. Everybody who's here can follow it.
Where's the buzzer and the light?
Just let me talk. Yes.
Chris,
read
this question.
So I think it's a good point to jump in here because I want to take it to this next question here. Jordan Anderson, a regular viewer on the show, he always has some great comments, and this is one of our viewers up in Minnesota who hasn't left yet, thanks to our guest comments. We haven't insulted Minnesota yet, but we're about to.
He's working on
That's
it.
my hometown, so hold on.
Yeah. So at least one guest on the show won't be insulted.
Minnesota.
Yeah. But he's got a comment here that I especially the last half I want to go to, right? It's a free market. Jordan says it's a free market. Capitalism is freedom. I like freedom. Mm-hmm. I think the real issue here is college sports, mainly football. And I kind of want to ask what you mean by that, Jordan, and maybe chime in with some more clarity here. But here's at least what comes to mind for me is this. It's always kind of bugged me that, for instance, a lot of people don't know who is the highest paid state employee in Texas.
Governor?
Not me.
Mr.
I don't know, though. Mr. Constitution?
I don't know. Go ahead.
It's the head coach for UT.
Yep.
Oh! Wow. Okay.
And right behind him is the head coach for A&M.
A&M.
Right? Highest paid state employees. By far. It's not even close.
Because it's
a
state college. It's a state employee.
Right. Now, so to my point on this, and maybe this is where Jordan is going, I don't know, is that college football is not only big money, it is
true. That is true.
Massive money, yet the players themselves are screwed in this process.
Yeah,
they
don't get.
Is it massive money because the players don't get paid?
Oh no, that's only a small portion of it today because of the viewership, advertising, everything else.
Those players are well taken care of. Whatever their needs are, somebody else is there to pay for it. That's why they call them boosters.
Yeah.
Okay,
So is that-
but the
That's
thing
fine.
about
That's skirting the system, but they can't put $1 in their pocket because then they're booted out of
Taking-
college.
yeah.
Then they're all
But
that
that's a
stuff.
whole different subject matter because
It is.
I disagree with the NCAA and the way the restrictions they put on those college players. I mean,
Absolutely.
These college players are going out there, and their thing is, well, they're getting a free education, they're getting a free ride, right?
Yeah.
But the other side of things is you're making billions of dollars.
Yeah,
for
They're
these-
making a lot more
yeah.
than a college
Exactly.
degree.
They're making 25
Yeah,
or 30 grand a year.
So I get what he's going there. I definitely understand where he's going there in regards to college football because, but on the other side of things, college football pays for most of the fees and the costs associated with all the other athletic programs, right? On the other side of things, because based upon rules that went into place, you have to have an equal amount of female, programs as you do to male programs, et cetera, on some of the state programs. So all that money comes in and has to be distributed amongst a lot of the different programs, not just, for example, UT football or A&M football. It goes to support a lot of different activities.
Yeah.
With that being said, the NCAA, I am a proponent that we need to change that. I do not like the NCAA system. I do not like the fact that you cannot pay a player or a player can't make money. They can't work for a job. They can't get sponsorships. I disagree with that, right? On the other side, these are 18, 19, 20-year-olds, that we're complaining about giving them hundreds of millions of dollars that they can't do money with either, right? So I like free market. I am a proponent of free market. I'm also in an industry, though, in which they didn't allow us to practice free market. They put limitations in regards to loan officer compensation, for example, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm in an industry in which they said, no. Even though you were doing a great job of what you did, we're going to limit on what you're allowed to do now and expect you to have the same responsibilities.
So Chris is just bitter.
Yeah.
I'm not bitter, by the way. I'm a realist.
The truth finally comes out.
Right? The realist is part of this. And let me tell you, if someone can go out there and get the money, I totally agree. Free market says if you can get that money, go get that money.
Yeah.
But I say society, especially in today's market, holds you to a higher level of responsibility and of leadership. Okay, and I think you need to have that as well. I think it's yes.
I really don't think that society really cares in that instance. A college player is a college player. What are they there for? They're there to get a college degree. The athletic participation that they do is the supplement to this. This is what they go out to entertain everybody.
Do you believe they care about a
College
degree?
players
I don't
are
think.
there
Well,
to
no.
get
I say that with the
exposure
caveat of
to go
saying
into the professional industry.
yes.
Right.
That's
So
why
if we're talking
they're
about-
One at a
giving
time.
up their senior
One at a
years to
time.
go into the pros.
If we're talking
Most
about a
of
free
them,
market, then
yeah.
why wouldn't we allow them to have sponsorships and to brand themselves with Reebok or whoever they are based on their their physical abilities to play the sport
agree.
that they're in?
They should.
So
Yeah.
that is free market. So I agree with you on that one. I'm not really familiar with NCAA.
Well, the college
so I don't
teams
know the
handle
law,
it with
but
the team. They don't necessarily go for the individuals that
that's
much.
not a free market though.
But
Because if
that's
you're
not-
talking
no,
about
they
if
can't.
my
And
job,
it's
if I
part
want to
of
be a
the
professional,
NCAA
if I want to be a
rules.
Exactly.
professional football player
One at a
and I
time.
want to play football, then I should be able, as a college student, to get an education because that's what I'm there for. I should be able to have my own job and get a brand or sponsorship or
Because it
whatever.
is like a job.
And
It
to
is.
be paid,
Yeah.
or compensated in any form or fashion.
Did you get a
Period.
scholarship?
No.
I did not.
So Molly is just
Scholarship.
bitter.
Yeah.
I think this truth is coming out on this
Bitter
show.
group.
I'm not good
It's
at
all
sports.
bitter.
Bitter,
I'm not
bitter,
good at
bitter.
sports.
bitter,
Cheers
chicken
to
Good at
dinner.
real estate.
Paying dinner to bitter.
Yeah, see, that's.
All right, do we have any more comments, Ash?
Thank you. I'm here all week. Sorry.
Huh?
Better shit.
That's all the spicy ones right now.
They're all the
Okay, that's all
spicy
the spicy
ones.
ones.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
unless you want David Pickens paragraphs.
A paragraph, huh?
Paragraph.
Paragraphs.
Oh, multiple.
Well, if he has if he has a point that we can toss up there,
He'll
yeah.
answer
So-
tomorrow.
Probably mad at me.
Man, yeah.
All right, so are we gonna throw one up there or no?
Yeah, we do have one from him, and
Okay.
it's straight up I disagree.
All right. So now we know why I didn't
Do I
make it
need to
the
get my
screen.
reading glasses out?
You're selective.
You what?
Go ahead.
Two people are having a conversation, so it's sort of out of.
Gotcha.
Oh, they're going at each other. They're not caring what we say.
Yeah,
Okay.
Anderson's
Nah, I dig it.
Somebody put up a question.
We have a show that happens on the comment feed.
Yes.
All the
And
time,
sometimes
yeah.
that's the best part of it.
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah.
Because you know,
I'm
part of
that
these
We're just talking
conversations.
heads over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, part of these conversations obviously is the wine no wine show.
Yeah.
Is to be able to have a healthy conversation.
Yes.
And a lot of times you might go down these rabbit holes you talked about, you know, parenting, you know, leadership, salary, whatever it might be.
Ethics.
Ethics, you know, but these are important conversations I think sometimes that people forget to have.
Yeah.
More importantly is you know, getting back to the salary side of things on the original comment is, you know, I would still say the following is we are a free market. The market determines what your value is worth. These athletes' value has been determined by the market.
That's true.
My thing is not about the fact that the market has determined their value.
Right.
I think if I put in the other factors associated with it, that's where I think then they become an overpaid athlete. When they don't go out and give more to society, when they don't become good leaders, when they're not, you know, good stewards of items that we are teaching our youth to grow up and be. When they're not being a role model, that's where I disagree.
I'm going to ask a question.
nailed it.
I want to ask a question on this.
No.
If listen,
You
if
nailed
the
it.
free market
No.
does the free market not address this? And let me
No,
bring
it
it.
can,
Hang on,
but it does
hang
not.
on.
That's not its purpose.
Let me finish, please.
Sorry, go.
One at a time.
Oh, you need some more.
Don't make me shake my finger.
Wag.
Wag.
All right. To my point. To my point. It's been mentioned. It's already been brought up. The whole, you know, the flag issue that we had, you know, the last season, and
Don't get too excited.
yeah.
Keep going. We're listening to you, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm all ears. All ears to you, buddy.
I didn't mean to
Someone's
distract you over
talking
here.
This is a live show, you know.
This
Keep going.
is a very much a rarity. I'm kind of in a drinking mood. So.
Oh well, and that's it's a
Rare.
nice
Well,
good-
good.
it's a
Good
one.
conversation will
Just a
do that.
little sip,
Yeah. All right. So anyway, to my point is that it's been brought up, the flag issue and all this sort of thing, and kneeling, and that was last season. Well, the market responded,
It did.
right? The market said we don't
Yep.
care to see this, and it put a massive dent in the pay of the players
Ownership.
or the ownership of the team,
Yep.
Yep.
and consequently they had a reaction,
Yep.
right? And so did not the market address it?
It did.
Do you know
Right?
what happens when your
So-
children get in trouble? The parent gets in trouble.
So
that brings.
and crap rolls
And
downhill, as
it's
they say.
apparent,
Yeah.
Right? And so,
Ooh.
I mean, like, how much more? I mean, like, I'm let the market be the market. Let it deal with it. I mean, that's kind of how I see it. You know, I mean, I personally would love for all of the athletes to be a JJ Watt.
Well, and that's
right?
just it.
He's
That-
a freaking great guy.
But,
But
they're not
like,
all that.
They're just
Right,
not.
and that-
you got to let
exactly.
them rise and fall to some extent. And,
And
unfortunately,
that'll affect their careers. Obviously,
Exactly.
Kaepernick. I mean,
These
I
people
don't
are
think
never
he's
gonna
been
be able to live
signed
these
to
things
another
down.
team. So he's obviously paying the price for the stance that he took, and that is freedom. That's America.
that's again the market,
Well,
the market handling it. And I've heard people say, you know, like Steve chimed in and he said that Kaepernick was terrible and all this. Well, I've heard people make good art, and I'm not a sports aficionado by any means. I'm a bandwagon fan, and I'm a bandwagon fan, and I'm a geographical fan. The closer the city is to me, the bigger the fan I am. Right?
So like
Astros!
the Saints were good.
Yeah, so I'm like, I had to look, and by mileage, I'll be a Dallas fan before San Antonio. Before San Antonio, right? It's by
Are we
like
talking
10
about
miles.
basketball?
You know, I mean, like so.
Basketball or-
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
right on the edge right
Right,
there.
right, yeah, exactly. And my most hated team is the Washington Redskins. So yeah, I mean,
Well, then you'd be a good Dallas.
they're way
you'd
up
be a
there,
great Dallas
farthest
fan.
away.
Here we
If
go.
There-
Maine ever
there
comes
you
up with a
are.
football team, I'll hate them too.
What was the name of the Cluckers or something?
Oh.
Anyway.
Cluckers or Pockers or what was the name?
What was,
of
the, what was the word you said earlier?
Oh yeah, I don't remember.
We'll have to rewind the show.
Yeah,
to
we
see it
do.
right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Dang it.
Anyway,
If anybody remembers the word that Joe said earlier,
but-
just
And that's the new Alaskan team.
Talker.
For soccer.
Soccer, yeah,
Soccer.
poker. I was
Yeah.
trying to say playing poker.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my point is, I already forgot what my point was.
Sorry.
He's
Yeah.
got
Yes!
no poker
Another rabbit
points.
hole.
No Pocker points.
You get no poker points there, buddy. Yes.
Oh, Kaepernick, yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I've heard people, make this argument that he was terrible, but then I've seen people come back and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
hold up, there's people in the league with worse stats than him who are presently holding down the job."
Can I
right?
enhance this a little bit about that, just so that I don't be the bad guy in this? Kaepernick was good enough to be hired and put in the rotation as a starting quarterback. You don't get to that position without being
Talent.
good.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he had
Yeah.
a spark. He had a couple of seasons where he was outstanding,
Yeah.
and he performed. But once he started declining in performance, his stats were not as good.
Yep.
He tried to compensate for the attention factor. He wasn't getting the
Right.
attention. This is a
I don't think he
personal
did it
thing.
for the attention.
Oh,
There's
if you don't
probably
believe that,
a little
then
bit.
I got
Well, he got him
I
fired.
have a
I mean,
question.
so-
But he
I
wouldn't
think
have been doing that if he was a starting quarterback. I'll
That's
guarantee
right.
you.
Yeah, I have
He
a
had
question,
time
though.
sitting on the bench
Sure.
because
No.
his level was down.
I have a question for you both, though. Here's about salary. Would he do the same thing if he didn't have $30 million sitting in the bank?
I don't think
Probably. Yep.
No,
If
because-
I
he's- if
disagree.
he's
That's
using
all
his
there.
When
career,
you got
why
the
not?
money
Why
sitting in the
wouldn't
bank,
he
you
use-
can
He
afford to do
knows
whatever
it.
you want
He
to.
can
Why
afford
wouldn't
it.
he
Right,
use
you
his
can do
platform?
whatever
Yeah.
you want to do.
For people talking at once, I'll just start the
Go,
club
go,
music.
go.
If he didn't have $30 million or $50 million, whatever it was sitting in the
Yeah.
bank, he wouldn't have made that stand at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because he was still trying to fight for the league and his position, et cetera.
But maybe
et cetera,
he
et cetera,
would
right
if
there.
if his career was being, I don't know, extinguished because his performance sucks. Sorry.
Well, if all he was doing was
Then
sitting
why
on the
wouldn't
bench,
he use
what
his-
is he
why
going to
wouldn't-
do?
Why wouldn't he use his platform to create a name for himself? Because everybody knows who Colin Kaepernick is.
Yeah.
He
He
could
did-
brand himself as whatever he wanted,
He didn't do it, though, when he was a
whether it
starting
was
quarterback.
good or
Right.
bad, whether you
Right.
accept it or not. He
That's
now
the
is
point.
relevant. Period. Bad paparazzi is
Yeah.
is good paparazzi.
He didn't do it when he was a starting quarterback. He didn't do it when he was in the Super Bowl.
He
didn't
did
do
it
it.
when
He
his
didn't do it.
career
Right.
was failing,
He
and
did-
maybe
yeah.
he did it on purpose
Yeah.
for that
And-
reason
and-
to
and-
become
and-
relevant again.
Salary.
And it failed.
Goes
He
back
has
to
$30
salary.
million sitting in the
It
bank,
goes
though. He
back
can
to
afford to do so.
salary.
He
Exactly.
has nothing to worry about.
Now he has no job.
Yeah.
He has
But
$30 million in the bank.
money's in the bank.
He doesn't have to worry about money.
No, because he was donating too, wasn't he? He was donating.
Yeah,
He was donating.
Oh, he still donates?
thousands,
Yeah.
millions
He's
of
a
dollars.
very active
So,
You
guy.
can
so
donate a
maybe
million
he
of
was
30 million and still
trying
have
to
plenty.
represent
Yeah.
JJ Watt, but had a different point of view. I don't
Yep.
know.
Yeah.
So-
I'm not a Colin Kaepernick
My-
fan.
my,
I don't even.
I think no matter what the situation here, when we've mentioned it, to chime back in and say where I didn't get to go with my answer with Kaepernick was there are people that argue, well, he's got better stats than people who are presently playing in the league, and he wasn't hired back. And the rebuttal, which ties us all back to kind of where I'm coming from, is they said, yeah, but his stats were only at a certain level, and his drama level exceeded that, right?
He's
Yeah.
high
And
risk.
his
He's high
drama
risk for
level exceeded his
corporations.
value, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there comes a point where team unity and the cohesion of the team and all this sort of thing are exceeded by the drama being caused by a certain player, and he loses value and off
Is
he
it
goes.
drama or is it a
Is it
brand?
caused or
because
caused?
because the brand could have a negative connotation to it, and maybe
That
that's
could have
not
fit.
that's not accepting to
Yeah,
the
it
companies
could
that
have
he's
fit.
trying to work for.
My point is that the free market again dealt with it.
Yes.
There was a value and a drama level that exceeded the other, and the free market said,
We don't
You're
want
out.
that.
Joe, there
Which
is a
is-
word,
he
and I
snuffed
think
himself
everybody
out.
on the panel tonight today will understand this. One that we haven't talked about, and you can attribute this to the Colin Kaepernick factor, that a team, an owner, a company within this conglomerate, liability. Is his liability
Exactly.
too much for a team? Is the drama factor above the salary and net worth or the performance worth of a player, an entertainer? If the drama level is up here, I guarantee you the drama is synonymous with the liability as well, because if they're out there doing stupid shit,
Yeah.
then they're going to be a liability.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I forgot to bring out the...
we just lost our PG rating.
it wasn't exactly an F-bomb, but it was...
Is the S
suffice.
word necessarily bad?
Well,
No.
it describes a piece of
What
something.
brand are you representing?
Oops, shit.
Yes.
The Wine No Wine show tends to be a family-oriented show.
Except for
tends
with
to
him.
be.
Oh,
Anyway,
Aren't
crap.
you a
Anyway,
politician?
yeah, no.
Yeah.
All right, so look, we'll wrap up with this point. We'll
It
wrap
don't.
up with this question, I should say, right? Or comment. We'll let you guys respond to this, and then we'll take it home. The comments by David Pipkin, a regular on the show. He said he disagrees. I'm not sure at what with what at this point. But he said, when we are at the point where the focus of the dollars spent by universities is directed more to the athletes than the students and academics with the public funds, to Joe's point, then we have government actually promoting the misplaced priorities I mentioned earlier. I don't know what you mentioned earlier. But
I would like to go first.
okay, I was gonna, if we're dialing that comment in, where it's like, hey, it's a state, at least with college football, in many instances, it's a state situation where it's state funded and everything else. Is that what he's getting at here? When our priorities are going towards the football, we had distractions behind the scenes here. We have hundreds of millions of dollars that are spent on stadiums and all this kind of stuff, right?
High school even.
Yet academically, our nation continues to decline, right? And that's at the high school level. We have a $65 million stadium, out in Katy or whatever.
I don't think that it's.
Right?
I don't think that I'm from Katy, but I don't think that it's just universities or schools, because the NFL. It is a traveling circus. They get city tax redemptions and
they're a
things like
non-profit
that.
or non-for-profit.
They're a non-profit,
Yeah.
and but
There's the club music.
There it is again. There's the club music you asked for.
A little late.
But they're given these tax
benefits
for coming into cities, and cities put in bids. That's how Super Bowl works. It's a business. That's what the NFL is. So whenever you're bringing brands that are sponsoring, whether it's colleges, high schools, I don't care what it is. That's part of the free market. They should be able to solicit any individual, not necessarily the school. So I think that's where the problem is that the individual, the high school, well, maybe not high school, but the college student,
at least 18 up.
Yeah, whatever.
18,
but
yeah.
they should be able to, hey, you know what? Under Armour gave me this cool deal, blah blah blah. That would put them above in any situation, period, regardless of what college or they sign to or NFL team. So I think that would be a free market. Other than that.
Okay, you're next. Go ahead.
No.
No.
Okay. Did you finish?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, go ahead.
I think what she was trying to get at was that there is an intermingling of levels of sports in this country, and it is starting to come down from the professional down to the college and to the high schools now, where we see scouting of talent that are just a few years from high school. They get through college, they're going to be in the pros. And I think we had a great representation of this in Friday Night Lights with that production, where that one player was going to be a pro. His whole family was saying, oh, we have made it in the shade. And what happens to him? He breaks his leg and he's not able to play. He'll never recover. His career is over.
But
now,
he could have made hundreds of thousands of dollars by being sponsored by Reebok or Under Armour or some sort of.
There could have been some
compensation
scratch coming his way. But honestly, I think that when you get to the point where a high school student who is an outstanding athlete is totally deserving of every accolade and attention that they can garner in their physical abilities, their prowess on the field, that gets to their head. And I think that bad decisions come from that, because especially when you get the family thinking, oh, this is our meal ticket. Oh, man, we're going to protect him and stuff like that. So you can't even be running down the street without the whole neighborhood getting on their tricycles and big wheels following the kid, while he's doing his workout.
So would salary help that, though? Would
No.
him being given a salary promote him to stay in college and really focus on his education, because he's already getting $100,000 from Under Armour or whatever? Would that help him not try to get into a professional support?
But then it would be a public salary. Wouldn't it be? Because it'd be
that's why you open up the free market and you say, you know what, they're individuals.
If it was free market,
they're above 18. They should be acknowledged as an
Under
individual.
Armour, in this case,
they're voting. They're
so it wouldn't be a
all
salary.
of
That's not a salary. That's a sponsorship.
Well, they could be a salary sponsorship.
There's not very many instances where we see a lot of individual efforts in individual sports, not like
it's not
team
allowed.
sports.
From what he said from the NCAA, it's not allowed.
Yeah. The
Well, I know it's not allowed
NCAA
in
has
NCAA,
encapsulated, has
So
contained
they've capitalized
a lot of the fragmentation, the corruption.
They have monopolized
it's still in there.
Exactly.
So it goes to them.
It goes to the universities. It doesn't go to the individual. As an adult, if I was 18 years old, and that's my professional, then what?
That's a very good point.
Well, the state of Texas has one state school, and that's the University of Texas. Why it's not A&M, why it's not Baylor, why it's not SMU, something like that.
Right.
Those are, that's
Ask
one of
your
the things
voters.
is that the state really does function around the University of Texas college system.
Absolutely.
And it is supported from the state. They get a lot of state money, where other schools get money from boosters and other private corporations.
But
and
so does
things
the
like
NFL.
that.
The NFL gets it from
Yeah,
cities and
everybody-
states as well. That's what the bids are for. That's why you know
Yeah,
that
because
the next
communities pay for stadiums.
Las Vegas
a
is
lot.
building.
Yeah.
Las Vegas is building a stadium right now.
Right.
They're bringing in their new Raiders. Sorry, Oakland.
Yeah.
It's kind of but that's exactly what they're doing. Is
Yeah.
that they're bringing in a team over there. They're gonna get tax benefits. It's a business. It's not for entertainment, as everybody's been suggesting.
Yeah.
It is a
Yeah, it is
business.
business.
The NFL is
I
a
agree.
corporation, and it's a nonprofit.
Yeah,
So
which
all these
is
billionaires
crazy.
are funneling money into a
It's
nonprofit.
funny money.
Yeah,
We drink
fun-
wine
it's
on
funny.
this.
It is funny
It's
money.
funny money. It's funny money, but it's true.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like the NFL.
I want to hear closing thoughts. I'm interested to see where everybody's at. I'm definitely kind of hearing both sides and positions on this. I definitely have a take on it now. So, all right, let's closing thoughts, and we'll wrap it up here. Did we change our minds? Did it become nuanced at all? Your position been altered at all? Wrap up the thoughts, Steve.
I really think tonight's panel handled a great variety of topics. We came in from positions where we didn't necessarily disagree, but we came up with some fantastic little bits of personal knowledge about the issue at hand. The issue at hand is, are athletes paid too much money?
Yeah.
Our side of the room said, no, I think that the money is earned because of certain situations. You guys took the position of no. They are overpaid, and so we kind of went at it after that. One of the things that I remember, and I'll wrap it up with this, is that there was a line in the movie North Dallas 40.
Grapes.
Does anybody remember North Dallas 40?
Yes.
Okay, pretty good
Oh, yeah.
show.
Good flick.
Now, funny, very witty. It had
Don't
a
roll it
line
up,
in there where
Don't roll it up.
every time, I think one of the players was complaining about.
He does that
Roll it
every
up.
time.
Don't roll it up.
By the end of the
Hold it
show,
by
he's going to have it into like a club.
the
He's
I
going
was
to be
gonna-
he's going to be hitting things with
You
it.
got my point?
Yeah.
I have to
Anyway,
replay new
I'm not
ones.
voting for you wherever
Real
you
quick, the
Hold on to
line
people's heads.
was kind of like this. He says, every time you guys call football a business is where we think of it as a game. Every time you consider it to be a game, we call it a business. So there's never a connect between the actual business side of football and the players. So there's always been this conflict about how do players act, how do they do these things, and corporate America tries to get in there and structure these contracts, these what did I this is the wine, the player contracts, the
CBA or
Go after the defenseless one.
no, dadgummit, I forgot what it was, but I'll think of it in a minute. I'm stupid.
Whenever we're off the air.
It's,
He
it's
said it on
just,
there now.
it's when it's a game, they say it's a business, and when they say it's a business, it's a game.
Yeah.
So there's a disconnect there,
Yeah.
and
Oh, I don't
and we're
know.
left
Something
watching the
about
results
that.
of that. So
Right.
I don't think it'll ever get resolved. I think we're always going to have problems with it, and we're going to have players out there making absolute fools of themselves, but we're going to have a select few that are absolutely giving the game its
Everything.
core. It gives them a reason to watch.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Molly,
Okay,
closing thoughts?
I'm just gonna say is that
Maybe a little
I
shorter.
believe in a free
Minute
market.
or so.
I just believe in a free market. I don't care about the NFL. I'm not emotionally involved in it. I don't care. But I had an argument, so that's it.
Whoa.
Oh no, okay, that's good.
like it.
Yeah.
I'll be objective. I'm the objective one.
well?
Oh wow!
Ooh.
Now.
Everybody else isn't
Gosh.
objective.
No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. I wasn't agreeing with him either.
You left me hanging.
Well, I want to go in the the record, this is not about the NFL. This is about
Right.
athletes in general. This
Right.
is about
and
every
we did
sport. Yes.
focus on the NFL, but
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
NBA,
So this is the NBA. This is every sport out there, by the way, and
I just think
everyone.
if you're going to be free, be
Yeah.
free.
And everyone has their pros and cons. I'm a big soccer fan.
all
but
about
yeah.
soccer. I forgot
Yeah,
about
most
that.
people don't realize. The highest
Football.
paid athlete in the world is actually
Love
a
it.
soccer player.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Neymar. Yeah, Neymar is the highest
not
paid.
pitcher?
$350 million for 5 years.
Oh my goodness.
Neymar Jr.
Who?
for Brazil.
Yeah.
Neymar Jr.
Badminton.
Badminton.
Yeah, the best
From
the best
Brazil,
sport in
though,
the
we're not
world.
talking about
Top
Americans
paid
anymore.
Yes.
sports athlete in the
That
world.
doesn't sound very
Badminton.
Brazilian.
Yeah, so I guess
Little people badminton.
exactly right. The summary I would
357
have is still to say the following: I agree, free market establishes the rate of compensation for professional athletes worldwide, independent of the market and what they're in. I also believe that there's a social responsibility those athletes have, the higher they are paid, and I do think that there's a relationship to that, to be a better stewards to the individuals who look up to them and watch them on a day-to-day basis, because they have a platform to perform that none of us have. And so that's my closing thought.
Yep. And that's really with extra prosperity becomes extra responsibility, and that's what it comes down to. And that's, you know, I was digging for it for
Very
all night long, and
Superman-ish.
I couldn't think of it. Yeah,
Superman.
but
Only in fairy
when you
tales.
gain that type of monetary income and salary,
With much income,
and
Becomes a lot, much responsibility.
Yeah, there it is. That
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But you,
Thanks,
still,
Alan.
but you still hold the janitor to the same.
You
same
should
standard.
absolutely, and,
So
and that's why like the
that's where I
CEO should
disagree.
shake the janitor's hand just as well as he does the vice president. But at the same time, when you're putting your face on an organization, and when you wrap this all up, and you're talking about are they overpaid, you just look at what are they doing to represent the organization, the team, themselves, versus what they did back 30, 40, 50 years ago when these leagues came into existence. They stayed on the same teams. They're a band of brothers. They fought for each other. They died for each other. They stood up for each other. They held their family values together. And all of a sudden, the pays increased. The money came flying in, and all of a sudden, I'm sure they had domestic
Yeah,
abuse
but
and
what
everything
was
back
the
in the
divorce
day.
rate back then? Because we could go into that.
We
rabbit
could,
hole
and that's
way too far.
another show next week. No
Yeah.
kidding, actually. But yeah,
Continuation.
So, hearing both sides throughout the night, I 100% feel where y'all are coming from with it, because in my own moral, confines and beliefs, I believe in servant leadership, and I definitely believe in a certain way of living life, and I believe that there's a certain way of living life that works and that leads to success. At the same time, I think much like art and music, it's more a reflection on society than it is on the individual. Because if our society was a moral and righteous society, they wouldn't tolerate, they simply wouldn't tune in to see the wife abusers and the dog, ring,
Yeah.
Michael Vick,
Yeah,
whole deal.
there's that too.
All those people,
Yeah.
they wouldn't, because let's face it,
No, that's true.
we accept a lot from our music, from our entertainment. We accept it.
And look at society.
And yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. I don't disagree
Right.
at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I think it's a reflection of our society.
No, absolutely.
And so,
I agree too.
kind of to Jordan's
Good
point,
closing
I'm like, I will lean towards the side of freedom all
Yeah.
the time.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm like, I'm gonna say, let the free market determine, and if the society around me is a bunch of heathens, I just have to do a better job at teaching my kids and
living
me.
your circle.
Yeah, exactly. Me not tuning in and
This is an
supporting
example
it.
of what not to do.
Right. And at the end of the day, let freedom be free.
Right.
Because I'm like the consequence of starting to say I'm going to regulate it. I'm going to government stepping in now and whatever else.
See, I don't.
I
And-
have
and everybody
problems.
revolts.
Yeah.
Right. I have more problem with that answer. The solution. So I still land on the side of let the free market dictate, and if we like the J.J. Watts, then the money will be there, and that guy's making $110 million a year, and he's going to get the bucks, and we support the teams that he's
But
behind.
his
and-
legacy will live on, and he'll
Right.
get paid tenfold.
Exactly,
Over
exactly, and the
I agree with
sponsor
that.
dollars will
Yeah.
be there, and
Yeah.
everything else.
He
He will
Come out
sell a
of-
Here's the
lot
free
of
market,
cars
by the
after
way.
he
Yeah, it's a free market.
Yeah,
It's not
Agreed.
It's not a perfect mark thing, but
Right.
it's the best thing.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel.
And you know what? We
represent
still
as a
live in the best country in the world
Yeah.
that allows this debate and this to go on.
Absolutely,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Ding,
And
ding, ding, ding,
on
ding.
that note, with the July 4th,
Yeah.
again reiterating the thanks for all of our servicemen and people who have
Absolutely.
literally died to make goofy shows like this a possibility. The freedom.
You couldn't have said it better.
I thought this was a serious show.
Right.
Goofy, great
I
show.
thought it was serious.
It actually is very serious, but I mean,
I'm
just
devastated now.
in my small little way of trying to save the world around me, my hats off to those who have paid a much greater price than I
Absolutely.
for my freedom to sit
Absolutely.
here and do this. So,
Absolutely.
thank you guys. We appreciate it. So we're gonna rate the wine. Sauvignon Blanc, a Vina Vandalos. Viña, right? Isn't it Viña? What's that?
It's rolling off the tongue a little better
Right.
toward the evening.
It's funny.
And-
Spanish sounds better when you've been drinking.
Yeah.
Spanish sounds better when you've been drinking. Viña Vandalos from Castilla, Maine. Spain.
Maine.
Maine.
There you are, Maine.
Thank you.
Spain is in Maine. It's a small city. In
God,
Spain.
In the
right.
plane.
That's
Yeah.
right.
We're gonna-
On the
we're
plane.
gonna
Getting
Google
on a
that.
plane to get to Maine to go to Spain.
And you said that after
never
two
been the
glasses of
same.
wine. That's good, man. Power up.
It's never been the same since I took a plane.
Now it hasn't.
Yes,
To Maine,
officer,
this is
I've only had
Spain.
2 glasses of wine.
And this is causing me a lot of pain. So let's
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so Steve, how did you rate the Viña Vandalos Sauvignon Blanc?
Okay. All right. Well, I thought this was actually one of the best whites I've had on the show. I did not have the chance to have that Australian Google a hockey puck wine that you were talking about that one time. I didn't get that chance because you held out on me.
Yes.
Talker.
The Yanka Lila.
Yeah, Yanka
He's a
hockey
pucker.
puck.
Which they pronounce Yugalila, which I don't know
Yugalila,
where they
yeah, so,
It literally, if you look at the word, it's Yanka Lila.
I still reserve the right.
Yugalila.
I still
Okay,
reserve
Carl.
the right to call it a funny name. Anyway,
Yes.
I
It was
gave this
delicious.
wine a 4.25.
Very good.
This
Very
is
good.
what I'm looking at, 4.25 right there.
Oh, good God.
See, y'all see that? 4.25. Very drinkable. Something I would drink with a meal. Something like
Thai
pasta,
crab
salad.
cakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we're
Crab
gonna-
cakes is bad.
Sushi.
Thai cakes. Whatever it was. Anyway.
I
Molly.
have to say that I'm the wine snob that did not want to drink the white, but I was surprised, so I gave it a 3. 3 grapes.
Happily
Which
surprised.
I was
It
I was
was,
I was
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was
I was
good.
not
Yeah.
very
It
hopeful
was-
for her rating when I
It was good. I liked it.
I just want to say now I hate all white wine,
A
Joe.
little bit. No, that's probably
Great,
the only
so
white
do
wine
I.
that I
I'll
had.
show you.
So I served white wine. I'm with Steve on this. For me, this is a corny thing, but the bouquet on the wine, the smell of the wine,
Yeah.
was delicious. I mean, it really was. Like I kept smelling it. It smelled really fantastic.
Was it sparkly?
Sparkly.
Sizzles the nose.
Let's not use mantras.
It made me want to snort it.
I will give this a 4.25 as well. I thought it was a very drinkable wine. And I will say that it mellowed nicely after it had been open a little while. It was a pretty enjoyable wine. I really enjoyed it.
Not me.
All right.
You did-
Another red wine drinker.
He looks over. He goes, "Man, he's getting into it." And I'm like, "Not
Look
me.
at the reds.
I'm not getting into that wine now." So, I am not a white wine guy. Let's start off with that. I am not a white wine guy. But I don't mind drinking whites, and I don't mind drinking. I love reds. But if I'm going to drink something, I really want something to knock me off my feet. If I'm going to drink a white wine, this is me personally. I want it to really knock. I want to be able to drink it and say, "Wow, this might change me from drinking red to or blend to a white." So
I don't
it
think
didn't do that to me,
Ooh.
unfortunately.
Didn't
So
do
I
that
gave
to me
it
either.
2 plums. I mean,
2 plums.
grapes.
Oh, are you knocked on your feet?
I guess there's an internal joke about the plums, right?
Yes.
Anyway, so 2 grapes, just because it didn't knock me off my feet.
All right.
Nice. The reason why I was saying he's really getting into it, he's like using all these words and verbs and adjectives, and I'm just gonna say it was good. It was smooth. It went down. Complimented the evening and the conversation. 4.
And it hasn't come back up.
Right, back up.
Right. There we go. There we go.
Can I roll it up now?
Yeah. Well, no. Please.
Oh, my pancreas!
I don't want to print these out every time we do a show. All right, I try to get at least a couple shows out of them.
Are these the originals?
No, God, no. I've had to reprint them 20
I
times
destroyed
because
the
of you.
first
Yes.
set.
The first like
Yay!
Rock me! Yeah, it's okay.
He's got a rolling habit, I tell you. I don't know what it is about Steve and paper, but
It's
he
the
rolls it up.
politician. It's the politician in him.
I want to take you and hit you across the
Yes.
nose with a
Oh,
rolled
I'm
up
going to
newspaper.
All right, so that was the Why No Wine show. We wrapped up our thoughts today. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back next week, Thursday, for the artist edition of the show at 7 p.m. live, and next Friday at 6 p.m. We're out, folks. Tune in to Instagram. I don't know. Hop over to Instagram. We sometimes go live. We don't always go live. It's just kind of on a whim thing. So it's kind of behind the scenes. If you catch it, it's happening. It's cool. And if not, no big deal. Thanks for being a part of the show, but the wine rating will be over there on Instagram. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and on YouTube, The Wine No Wine Show. We're out. Cheers.
Happy Independence Day.
Bye.